Drivers entering Formula 1 have a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and this can come from family members, this can come from friends, financial backers, and how to deal with that pressure entering the top stage of motorsport can be hard, but something that a lot of the drivers work to basically keeping under wraps as they continue in their careers from Formula 2 and Formula 3. It makes it even harder if they're related to an ex-Formula 1 or motorsport driver or even champion. And of course, we've seen a lot of them come through Formula 1. And of course, Max Verstappen related to Jos Verstappen is just one of those examples. Big pressure, of course, from what your predecessor, father, family member, what have you, have achieved. But there's one driver who is now entering Formula 1 who, throughout his career in Formula 3 and Formula 2, he's had pressure, but now he's on the big stage, just like his father, the 7-time world champion, did. And that, of course, is Michael Schumacher, and that is his son, Mick Schumacher. He enters HAAS F1 Team for the 2021 Formula 1 season with the American team, alongside Nikita Mazepin. It is going to be a big season for Mick. As I said there, it is big, and of course you do have pressure entering Formula 1, but this driver has the pressure of his dad being a 7-time world champion. Now, Mick Mania first hit the headlines in 2019 when he entered Formula 2 with the Ferrari Junior team of Prima Racing. Mick Schumacher, or the name Schumacher, is back in the formulas. It is incredible to see. Didn't do too well in that season, but then fast forward a year, he does incredibly well, dominating the Formula 2 season, along with his Prima teammate, Robert Schwartzman, and Mick wins the Formula 2 World Championship. Mick Mania is back, and that pressure is back, and to add it, he is into Formula 1. The pressure on his shoulders must be absolutely massive, and much more than all the other drivers who are in Formula 1 right now, who are entering Formula 1, even Max Verstappen, who, as I said there at the start, has a whole country behind him. Of course, Max and a lot of others. If you are a champion, if you've been in Formula 1 for 10 years, 5 years, entering as a rookie, I imagine that you don't have as much pressure on your shoulders as this young German driver does. But that's only in our opinion, Jordan. So the question is today, the thing that we're going to be discussing is Mick Mania a real thing? How big is the pressure? And does Mick Schumacher have more pressure on his shoulders than all of the other Formula 1 drivers, either entering or in Formula 1 at the moment? So Mick Schumacher, Jordan, is a great driver. We're obviously big fans of him. And the Schumacher name is back. They put on photos on their Twitter a few months ago when HAAS put on the words M. Schumacher in the German flag next to the cockpit. We all got goosebumps, and the first time we are going to see that in the 2021 season, a pre-season and during the Formula 1 season, is going to be just goosebumps, dreams, and excitement. But the pressure, is it more than the Formula 1 drivers on the grid right now? Jordan, is Mick Schumacher feeling the pressure of what people expect him to achieve from his dad? And is this hype more so than, of course, as I just said, that for the drivers who are in Formula 1 right now?
I think, of course, there is going to be pressure on Mick, whether he had the Schumacher name or not, because it's his debut in Formula 1. On that sense, but he is Schumacher. He is Michael Schumacher's son, so everyone's going to be watching him with hawk eyes to make sure that whatever he does, like whatever movie he makes, people are going to judge it straight away, aren't they? But I think he's had that for a good few years now. You know, before his Formula 2 days, when he was in Formula 3 and ADC F4 and Italian F4 as well, a couple of years ago, when he used to have his mum's maiden name, but then he changed his Schumacher name a couple of years after that, when he started in single-seater racing. So that just took away the spotlight a little bit. But then when he brought in the Schumacher name and everyone realised who he was, then I think the pressure was there. Then the expectation of him to be in Formula 1 started from that day, I would say, when everyone found out who Mick actually was. But I think, in Formula 1, of course, it comes with big pressure because it's the pinnacle of motorsport, to say the least. And Mick Schumacher is part of the Ferrari Junior Academy. His dad made a name for himself with Ferrari. There's just loads and loads of things you could say upon that. So I think in the surname kind of thing, there is going to be really, really big pressure. But I think what I do hope people do give Mick a bit of a chance as well, to actually show everyone who Mick Schumacher actually is, because it isn't Michael Schumacher at all, is it? It's just his son, and just because he is his son doesn't mean to say he's going to replicate what his dad did. He might never do that. At the end of the day, it just depends on what path he goes down. I do hope journalists, which I doubt they will, but some might. I doubt that they'll give him that benefit of the doubt. If he starts slipping up early on in his career, let's say he's not putting up to, let's say he's not beating his teammate Nikita Mazepin, he's not living up to expectations, he's off the pace, whatever, then I think people will start becoming critical, saying, oh, is it too soon for Mick? Is he not going to live up to his dad? First of all, I think you should forget about the fact, just don't compare him to his dad. He is not his dad at all. I'll give you an example. Ralph Schumacher. Ralph Schumacher was obviously Michael's brother, but he didn't do what Michael did. But does anyone slate him for that? No, because he's not Michael Schumacher. He was Ralph Schumacher. This is Mick Schumacher. He's got nothing to do with in that sense. Yeah, I know, like I said, it's his son, but he's still his own driver. He's his own ability. It's not like a reincarnation of Michael, if you know what I mean. So, no, but I think as well, people do need to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's his first season, and we know how slowly Mick could be at development when he goes into a brand new series. He always has that kind of one season where he's down on pace, he's not where he should be, let's say, but his second season or whatever season, he does. So I think that's when the pressure could be even more so on his second season, because that's when Mick normally delivers. So, and I think what might make the pressure a little bit easier is that he's with HAAS. No disrespect to HAAS, but we know how badly they performed in 2020, and we know how little development the cars are going to have in 2021. The Ferrari power unit, is it going to be any better? I don't know. I don't know. So if the car is as bad as what it was last year, then there's no real expectation for Mick to be in Q3 every single race, or for him to score points every single race. You know, he's in a good place for him to develop his skills, to understand how a team works, how to, you know, grow as a driver, really, because that's what we need to let Mick do. Grow and develop it at his own rate, and let him make his own mistakes. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to make silly mistakes in practice, mistakes in qualifying, mistakes in the race, like everyone did. Schumacher made mistakes. Hamilton makes mistakes. Vettel makes mistakes. We know Vettel makes mistakes, but that's not my point. You know what I mean? So yeah, there is going to be at points where we do go, oh, is Mick really that? And he will go through a stage of his career where he might not score any points for 5 races or 5 races in a row, or however many races, I don't know, or that, you know, no podiums, no points, no whatever. But still, it just let him develop at his own rate. You know, he's a slow learner. But one thing that is going to fail me though, Lyle, is if Mick, let's say in the next 5 seasons or so, and he's got no race wins, let's say, under his belt, and he's with a decent team, whether that's with Ferrari or, I don't know, Alfa Romeo, if they do anything well, or someone else for that matter. I'm not too sure where he could be in 5 years. But I think if he doesn't get like emulate what his dad did at that point in his career 5 years in, I think people could then become critical of Mick. And I think that's when the pressure could get even higher. I'm not saying everyone will do that. I'm just saying that odd people will start going, especially, you know, these people on Twitter and stuff like that, and on YouTube, oh, Mick hasn't achieved the same amount of points as what Schumacher did at this stage in his career. He's 25,000 points away from him. He should be out of Formula One. Like, no, if he's done an all right job in let's say a bang average car, then he's doing okay. He has deserved to be in Formula One. He deserves to be there, and rightly so. He deserves his chance to have a good stage in Formula One. Matt Binotto said at the start of the year, might have been at the end of last year, that Mick has got time to develop, but there is a chance he could be in that Ferrari car, in 2023. So straight away, there's talk of Mick going to Mick going to Ferrari. There is talk of Mick going to Ferrari straight away off the bat. It's funny. So yeah, do you think then that should Binotto be saying things like that already? And do you think that has now just added that even more pressure of Mick knowing that I've got a chance to drive for Ferrari, I've got to deliver at my best? Do you think that is the right call from Binotto to say that? Or do you think that it kind of gives him a little bit of a confidence boost knowing that Ferrari have trust in Schumacher to develop within 2 seasons for them to go, right, you're going to be in that Ferrari seat? Do you think that was a good call from Binotto? Or maybe do you think he should have kept it kind of under wraps for maybe a year or even 2 years to see how Mick develops as a driver.
Well, to answer your first question about the if Mick, starts to in the next 5 years, if he doesn't emulate what his dad is, or he isn't on the road to doing it. One of the big things I saw was obviously the 2020 German Grand Prix, the Eiffel Grand Prix, sorry, when Lewis Hamilton matched the 91 wins. He was given Michael Schumacher's Mercedes helmet from Mick Schumacher. Of course, it would have been Michael Schumacher if he was obviously around in the paddock. Sadly, he's not. Obviously, he's still recovering. But of course, it was his son Mick. Now, again, I saw a lot of people on Twitter and on Facebook and things like that, armchair fans, as they're called in other sports. So let's call them armchair F1 fans. Even though I guess we all are armchair F1 fans. No one's actually driving a Formula 1 car. And people were saying that in the next time it will be Lewis Hamilton handing over his helmet to Mick, as Mick will beat Michael Schumacher. Sorry, will beat Lewis Hamilton's 91 wins. He'll beat I want to keep saying Michael Schumacher's 7 because it is true. It's Michael Schumacher's records, but obviously a lot of them are being beaten by Lewis Hamilton at the moment. So Mick will beat Lewis Hamilton's record, and it'll be Schumacher, Hamilton, Schumacher. It will just be like the role reversal. It'll be like losing the heavyweight championship belt and going to get it back again in that way. And in that way, I know that only some fans are saying this, and from what I saw, but people are saying that Mick is on the road to doing what his dad's done. He's on the road to not just beating his dad's records, but beating Lewis Hamilton's record. Of course, the man who's beating it at the moment, and some people actually believe that Mick is representing Germany and representing his dad and representing what Formula 1 should be standing for, that it's Michael's records. Lewis is just something that he shouldn't be taking these records, and it's now going back to the Schumacher name. I do believe that some people believe that Mick is the one to get the records back from Lewis Hamilton, even though, again, Jordan's just alluded to, it's Mick Schumacher, not Michael Schumacher. He's not doing it. He's not doing it for his dad or the Schumacher name or whatever. He's doing it for himself. He's doing it for Mick. And again, as Jordan said there, when he was in Formula 3, yes, he did take his mother's maiden name for the fact that he wanted to be a Mick career, not a Michael career, not a Schumacher career. So I think some people will definitely see that, but other than that, if he does start falling off the pace, and firstly, if he doesn't start achieving what his dad did, he is beating Nikita, but he isn't achieving first and second, and he isn't being up there with Max, and he isn't performing as well as some people think. I don't feel like he will be sort of as he's not fulfilling the best of his achievement. He's not a real Schumacher, or he isn't driving to the best of his ability, or what we thought he would have been. Yes, I do think the pressure will come down a little bit like what we saw from Formula 2. So as I just said there at the start, in 2019 he came in with Prima. He was tipped for massive things, and then he only won the feature race in Hungary. And that was one win by Michael Schumacher, for Mick Schumacher, finishing quite low on the table, Prima finishing quite low on the table, and we all thought, is that it? The man who we built up. The Mick Schumacher Mini was massive, and then in 2019 it was a bit of a disappointment that it ended up in like that. He should have been fighting really at the top against people like De Vries, Giotto and Latifi, but he wasn't. That's what we all thought. 2020 there was really no pressure on him, and this is when I thought Mick Schumacher could have a good season in Formula 2 because there's no pressure on him whatsoever. He's driving the number 20 car. To be honest, it wasn't a car at the back, but he was seen as a driver at the back at the start. And then, of course, through other pressures and other competitors such as Robert Schwartzman and Callum Ilott, he was coming through the ranks. And then when Mick did start running away with it, it wasn't the hype that was following him. It was just the true fans, because we saw, there's a driver called Mick who's doing really well, not a driver who's called Schumacher doing really well. And when he won the championship in Bahrain, it was incredible to see. And again, yes, he was a Schumacher, and of course, everyone will have said the Schumacher is now world champion again, just like of course he was back in 2004, the last time we saw a Schumacher, Schumacher and champion next to each other. But again, I still saw the words Mick. Mick was champion, not Schumacher was champion. And again, that's what I just loved. Mick Schumacher, this young German who's writing his own career book. He is world champion. It's not just a Schumacher name anymore. And that's when 2020 was probably the best year for Schumacher, because the pressure wasn't there. And in turn, he did do a better career. He did do a better season. And of course, he won the World Championship, of course. And you think, did he do this because of the less pressure on his shoulders? And I would like to think, yes, he did, because in 2019 there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders at Prima, and they didn't perform. 2020 there was no pressure, and he did perform. Now again, the pressure is of course hyping up again in Formula 1, and more so, Jordan. I'm just going to mention this quickly because of course we've already gone over this, but it does create a lot of controversy. His teammates, very unpopular.
Yeah.
And that might be another reason why Mick Schumacher is getting so much hype. So much hype and admiration. And Haas fans who were equally Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen, they don't really want to sway towards Mazepin. So they're going towards Schumacher. So I feel like it's now, 90-10 at that team. So I feel like Schumacher does have a lot of pressure, a lot of hype. But when I say pressure, though, it might not be a bad thing for him to have. But I do think, though, that as he progresses in Formula 1, yes, if he isn't at the top, the pressure will come down. And in turn, from what we saw in Formula 2, that might help him. He might start getting better results from that. And to go on to your second question as well about the Matteo Binotto comments. Now, firstly, we've discussed this a lot about Red Bull and teams like that making promises about drivers being in the top teams very, very early. 2023 will have been in Formula 1 for 2 years. Yes, he will have 2021 season and 2022 season, and obviously entering for the 23. That's very early for Mick Schumacher, both in Formula 1 and in terms of age. Of course, what about Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz? Two drivers who are very much locked in for Ferrari's future, especially Charles Leclerc. But if we're talking about replacing Sainz, you've just signed him this year. The second thing as well is again, it's Ferrari, it's a top team. Yes, I know that you want the Schumacher name in to look good. I mean, the Schumacher at Ferrari name, as you said there, Jordan, that's where Michael made his name. If you get his son in, it's incredible. Yeah. I mean, but, yes, of course, when Charles Leclerc came to Ferrari, Netflix and the mention of course, Charles Leclerc was the godson of Jules Bianchi. Sorry, entering Formula 1. That obviously Charles Leclerc was the godson of Jules Bianchi. Jules was in Formula 1, now Charles is in Formula 1, and then of course Charles going to Ferrari. Jules didn't drive for Ferrari as such, he drove for Russia, but he did test for Ferrari, and of course a lot of people thought Jules could have driven for Ferrari one day, so it was a very much a symbolic thing in that way. And I would say Charles did have a bit of pressure on his shoulders, a bit more so when he was driving for Alfa Romeo, because he was obviously driving, and of course he was the godson of Jules Bianchi. In that way, yes, going back to Ferrari, it would be nice to see the Schumacher name back, but it might be the wrong way to do it. Just to bring in Mick, just for the Schumacher name, is not possibly the best thing that they could do. If the opportunity rolls by, Jordan, where let's say Mick has 2 average seasons, the pressure comes down a little bit, but it's still there. Yes, he is a good driver. Of course, he's the best driver at HAAS, and he is up there doing decent midfield battles. Let's say, where I think HAAS will be, but obviously not too close to the top, as you said there. HAAS midfield car, if anything, could be a terrible car. It's really a coin flip when it comes to HAAS, and of course 2 brand new drivers this year. If the choice is there and Mick is just an average field driver, but you have Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz who are doing really well in that car, whether that means at the front or midfield, but the best in their abilities, which I believe you have 2 drivers who are definitely doing the best of their abilities, just to bring in Mick, just for the name, wouldn't be right. And again, like I just said about Schumacher being world champion, it wouldn't be right. Yeah. You need to bring him in only on his pure pace. And really, the question is, Matteo Binotto, are you promoting Mick or are you promoting Schumacher? That makes a massive difference, I think. There's 2 sides to Mick. There's the Mick and there's the Schumacher. I know that sounds really weird, but that's how I believe it. Yeah. Are you taking Mick the driver, or are you taking Schumacher the name? Yeah. It is really hard to say for sure. So, Jordan, the question back to you about Mick Schumacher is entering Formula 1 this year. I just said there about the Eiffel Grand Prix. Obviously, a lot of people saying that he will be getting back his results of his dad. It would be nice to, of course, see that, but I don't believe so. But I mentioned at the start there about Max Verstappen and Jos Verstappen, but they had very, very, very different careers, didn't they? Jos did not achieve anything like Max did, but Jos is behind Max to have his own career and to achieve, his own things. And obviously, as we've just said there, sadly, Michael Schumacher is not around in the paddock at the moment to see Mick Schumacher into Formula 1. Hopefully, of course, that can be the case where he will see his son in Formula 1 one day, hopefully soon. But do you think, though, that Michael would want Mick to have his own career and to just do whatever he wants? And also, as Jos said in Beyond the Grid, do you think that Michael would just support Mick and put no pressure on his shoulders and just say, this is Mick's career, this is my son's career, and let him drive as he wants, and not how the Schumacher name was, and of course as Jos and Max, not as the Verstappen way it was? Do you think Michael would just support Mick in his own career?
I think you would. I think you would want Mick to, obviously, don't make any mistakes. This is how you do things. This is how not to do it. But I think he would want to say, like just what I alluded to before about if a journalist came to Michael and said, "Oh, you're at this stage in your career, you had 2 world titles and so many wins. Mick has only had 2 wins and no championships. You know, in the comparison, and it'd be like, well, he's got 2 wins. That's him. You know what I mean? That's Mick. That's my son. It's not my career. It's Mick's career. He can do, you know, what he wants. He shouldn't he wouldn't want to mirror image his father's career. Michael would want his own son to have his own career and do his own things his own way and whatever. Yeah, Michael will certainly guide him. But and to be fair, there's no one else better to learn off than the Michael who's been there and done it. But hopefully Michael does or can see Mick make his debut in Formula One. Yes, he can't be there in real life, but I do hope he can at some stage, you know, see Mick make his Formula One debut and fingers crossed be there back in the paddock one day to see Schumacher, his son, in the paddock and in a Formula One car in a Formula One race in real life. That would be so incredible. That would be so incredible. I mean, yeah, there's going to be loads of obviously questions and will he do this? Will he do that throughout the course of the first couple of years of his career? Because you've got that stage of he's a rookie. If he makes mistakes, you might have that excuse. He's a rookie. But will people be that lenient to go? But he's Schumacher as well. But no, he's Mick. He's not just Schumacher. He's Mick. People might just get on the bandwagon straight away. And let's say he starts spinning, he locks up too many, he goes through his tires like there's no tomorrow. Then yeah, people are going to get on his back straight away. But and let's say his teammate, he who should not be named, does a better job. Then you know people they won't credit him, but you know what I mean. They could say, well, Nikita's doing a better job at managing the tires than Mick, or but he's the Schumacher son, he should know how to control his tires or whatever. As well, that's what it could come down to. Then, like I said before, the second season that is then going to kick in, more than likely he's going to be with HAAS again. Brand new year regulations. Does all that reset? Does the second season not exist anymore because he's got a totally different car, totally different rules to what he had the previous year? So does everything go back to reset? Does then Mick struggle once again? And then 2023 rolls around. That's when Binotto said he could be up for that Ferrari seat, which coincidentally, Carlos Sainz's contract ends in 2022. At the end of 2022, put 2 and 2 together, you get 5. But like, yeah. It's gonna be an interesting few seasons for Mick. I just want people to don't be as cruel, because I know what's coming. I really do know what's coming. People probably don't agree now Mick deserves to be in Formula One, which in my opinion he does. I do think the Schumacher name, the surname, has helped him a little bit. It's always going to happen. I think if Jensen's son gets into race, if Robin Raikkonen, he gets into Formula One, if Lewis Hamilton has a son or a daughter and gets into Formula One that way, will the Hamilton surname help? It does. It will help get you better sponsorship, get you better equipment, but it's all about what you do with that equipment at the end of the day. Just because having a really famous surname doesn't make you have that same ability as to that person who is that surname is more recognised too. If Mick gets a car or whatever, gets his opportunities, you've got the best mechanics, you've got the best whatever, alright, but if he doesn't win races with it, then you could go, well, maybe he's not the driver, he's not that good of a driver anyway, but he's got the best equipment, but he's not delivering. You know what I mean? So, and if he is making the best of every opportunity, then he deserves to have a chance of Formula One. He's won world championships before in his past. He's done well in races. Yes, he has bad performances, but so did Russell, so did Verstappen. He's not on their kind of level. I'm not going to say that. He's not on the level of Charles Leclerc or Verstappen or Russell in the young category. Mick isn't like he's going to win 10 million world championships and win multiple races. I think that there isn't that hype, is there? There isn't that hype of the Mick driver. It's all about it's the son. And there will be a lot of people who did watch Schumacher back in the day who is excited about, seeing the Schumacher name back once again. I believe Ralph's son's in the ranks as well in Formula 3, I believe, David Schumacher. So maybe he could, will there be pressure on him when he comes into the fold? I really, really doubt it. Which, again, back to my previous point, you've got David Schumacher in the ranks. Who's watching him? Very little people. Why? Well, because it's Ralph's son. Oh, no, he'll be all right. What if David achieves more than Mick? That's just out there. It might not, but I'm just saying it's out there. You know what I mean. But no, yeah, I'm intrigued to see how it goes for Mick. I really, really am. But like I said, just don't jump the gun just yet. Give Mick A full season, yeah, he might not deliver. He might crumble under the pressure. He might not deliver to where he wanted to be. And if that opportunity doesn't come around where he does go to Ferrari in 2023, because that's what they'll be assessing. They'll be assessing Mick, but they'll also be assessing Carlos Sainz, because that's more than likely who he's going to be replacing. Charles Leclerc is the Ferrari golden boy. He's in there for the long term. Ferrari, I've said this before, they will want Schumacher in at Ferrari one day. Is 2023 too soon? Well, the next 2 years will be a telling point whether they keep Sainz on or not, or whether Charles Leclerc decides to get up and leave. Then maybe Schumacher could take his spot. But from what I'm saying, it looks like it is going to be Schumacher at Ferrari replacing Carlos Sainz in the foreseeable future. So probably last question to you then, Lyle. Then let's have a little prediction then. How well do you think Mick is going to do in Formula One? Do you think he will make the best of the opportunities that he gets? Maybe do you think he will go to Ferrari? Will he do well at Ferrari? If Ferrari do well, of course, build a good car, that is. So, do you think Mick can win a good amount of races? Can he win a world championship? Has he got the ability to win a world championship? Or do you think he's going to be a flop? Or one where you go, oh, do you remember Mick Schumacher? He did so well in the junior ranks. He's Michael Schumacher's son. He went to Formula One and he crumbled. He didn't do very well. He was a flop. He was an absolute flop. So do you think where do you see Mick going in that direction? Do you think he's going to be a success, or do you think he's going to be a flop?
Well, it really depends on where he ends up, what team he ends up in the future. Obviously, you said there about Ferrari. Yeah. That could be a bit of a curse, though, because, so I just want to quickly go back to Charles Leclerc. We never said, as soon as Charles entered Formula One, that he was going to be driving the Ferrari. There was ties there in terms of driving with the Alfa Romeo Sauber. Obviously, he was taught in the Ferrari Junior program. He drove in Formula 2 for the Ferrari Junior program as well. And as I just alluded to there, the connections with, of course, Joe Bianchi was there. But they aren't ties to say you're going to be going to Ferrari. Yeah. But now that he was signed for Ferrari, now it looks like he's going to be locked in and he's going to be there. And going back to our previous video on this channel a few episodes ago, where we talked about Charles versus Max, and we said that Max and Charles are both very much on the same level, but of course it's down to the cars. But there's one big difference. Max is not really connected to Red Bull as Charles Leclerc is. I mean, as John just said there, Charles is the Ferrari golden boy. Max is the Red Bull golden boy, but he can leave more easily than Charles can. So in that way, if Mick is tied to Ferrari for the future, that could be a good thing, but that could also be a bad thing. A good, obviously, is if he goes there and they have a good car. Bad is if they go there and they have a bad car. Very simple as that. As John said there, Michael Schumacher, of course, made his name in his 5 world championships at Ferrari, but he won 2 at Benetton, and he had, a good few seasons. I think it was about 6-7 seasons before he actually went to the big league of Ferrari. So Mick could for sure go somewhere like that, and of course, I know I've just made the comparison against Michael, but in terms of his link with Ferrari, that could be a good or a bad thing going forward. I would like to think Mick could do well. Formula 2, he had a great season. He was up against Robert Schwartzman, who was a very tough competitor as well. Did really well under the pressure. Obviously, that last race in Bahrain was a bit squeaky kind of thing. I think that's when it was Callum Ilott was really chasing him down in terms of permutation. Obviously, the bad race start that Mick had. I feel like, I don't know if that was Ilott doing incredibly well or Mick falling under the pressure. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just my opinion in this way. But I do believe that Mick can do well from his very good 2020 season. But his 2019 Formula 2 season wasn't really that good. And if the pressure did get to him, then that's not a good thing having it in F1 for the future. It depends on where the pressure is, depends on how we can deal with it. It depends on what teams will take him, what teams will have him, what teams he'll go to. Because I do believe at the moment, Jordan, that, like Charles was, but even more so than Charles, if it's written in the stars right now that Mick is going to go to Ferrari, and there's no chance he's going to go to any other team, because yes, there has been rumours that he could, partner Verstappen at Red Bull, or he could replace Verstappen at Red Bull or something like that. That might be a better option for Mick down the road. We really do not know. And as you said there about the regulation changes next year, we are really starting from afresh. And of course, that's what the FIA are trying to do. They're trying to stop this Mercedes dominance, trying to halt it and start again. And that, if they're doing that for Mercedes, then they're hoping to do that for all the other teams. So they really could be starting afresh. But is Ferrari going to be Mick's curse, or is it going to be Mick's, celebrations for the future? But yeah, how do you think he'll do in his Formula 1 career?
I think he'll have a good career. I hope he does anyways, but like you said there, you are correct in the sense that it depends on where he's at his at what stage that team is at, let's say, because more than likely, I think we know he might be going to Ferrari. We'll say might. And that's probably Ferrari's more than likely destination for him. They want him to come to Ferrari, but I do hope that they do bring him in at the right time for team and driver. Because if Ferrari have worked hard on development and improved drastically, and built a really good car and a really good team, then and Mick comes in and he's not ready yet, then they've just wasted an opportunity. But vice versa, Mick could be, he's done absolutely brilliant at HAAS, beyond expectation. He's settled in so well at Formula One. Goes to Ferrari, and Ferrari are just off the pace. And again, you made the wrong call. You know what I mean? But I don't know where each driver is going to be at. But at the end of the day though, if he's at a good team with a good set of people around him, then of course he can do great things. It doesn't matter who it is. Any driver on the grid today, yes, even that guy, he who should not be named, if you've got a good car at your disposal and a very good team around you, you can win races. You can win championships. You've done it before. You can do it again. But I'm interested to see what does happen with Mick. Whether what people say about him, what the pundits say about him, what the fellow YouTubers say about him. He gets a lot of support from us online as well, so that's good to see. But there is going to be that odd people who do not like Mick, probably because he's a Schumacher. I didn't like Michael. I'm not going to like Mick. I do think Mick can have a good career in Formula One. He's not a slouch. He's not a bad driver. But at the same time, he's not a next up and coming talent at the end of the day, like a Verstappen or a Russell. He is an alright driver. He deserves to be in Formula One. But like I said before, he's got a good chance. Let's see what he can do with that chance when he's got both hands at Formula One. Let's see what he does with it. Will he do well or will he not? Hey, time will tell.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be great to see though. Mick Schumacher in Formula One. The Schumacher name, nevertheless, the Schumacher name back in Formula One, as I just said there at the start, it gives you goosebumps to see Mick M. Schumacher and that German flag next to the HAAS cockpit. It is going to be really good. So, guys, thank you very much for watching. Leave it in the comment section below all your opinions on Mick Schumacher. Do you believe 2023 is too soon? Do you think he'll be ready by then? Will he be going to Ferrari, and how will his season go this year and in the future? And will he beat his teammate, as John said there, he who should not be named? Anyway, guys, we hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you do like what you see around here, please like and subscribe to our channel, the GP Debate Show, for so much more content throughout the 2021 season. We have great episodes for you, and just like you at home, we hope, and Jordan and myself, we cannot wait to start the 2021 Formula One season. Call launch are coming up very, very soon, and hopefully we'll get back to a normal Formula One season without this COVID. But it's still going to be lingering around, unfortunately. But let's try and just get back to on-track action, just like we did last year, even with this around. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, and until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.